All right, guys, let's move on to some history. Have you ever heard of the Liberty Basketball Association? Well, it was a short-lived league. Their first and last game happened on February the 18th, 1991, in front of 10,000 fans at the Palace in Michigan. This game was also aired on ESPN, and the game was supposed to be an introductory warm-up for the league's regular season, which was supposed to start 10 months after that game with 6 teams, including a team in Chicago. But the debut ended up being all she wrote for the league. The LBA was centered around some serious gimmicks, including a 9-foot 2-inch high basket, a shorter court, skin-tight unitards for the players, and a smaller ball. So the idea was to make the game more attractive to dudes, and clearly it didn't work because the league folded after one game. All right, so why did they do what they did? So Jim Drucker, the head of the Liberty Basketball Association, said, "We did not start with what can we do for women. We started at what kind of exciting sports product can we create?" And in contrast to the bulky, grotesque uniforms that women have been forced to play in the past, Mr. Drucker says players will wear form-fitting spandex unitards required to be attractive in both arena and television viewers. Oh, and for the actual game, the Detroit Dazzlers beat the LBA All-Stars 104-87. One of the players who actually played in that game, Monica Latin, she is 6'5". She was a center from Houston. She actually had the first dunk of the game. She said, "It was the most fun I've ever had playing basketball. I got real defensive. When I first heard about the league, I thought, what are they doing to basketball? But now I can see what the organizers envisioned." Also, Carrie McGee, who also played in that game and was an attorney at the time, she said they were very uncomfortable. "I'm not going to be naive. I feel there was some level of exploitation in the decision to wear these, but they were borderline, so I decided to play." But these are aerobic uniforms, not basketball uniforms. And we're not in Jane Fonda's class. Even those of us that are thin don't necessarily want to be running around in these. If they want a new sleek look, fine. There is some room between baggy and skin tight. So yeah, that was the game. That was a very interesting one-off game that happened in Michigan. Fans who attended the game also complained about the skin-tight uniforms. I from what I've seen in terms of coverage about this game, it feels like the main complaint from everybody was for the uniforms. And also, if you didn't know, that game was not the only game that featured skin-tight uniforms for women's basketball. Australia played in those types of uniforms for years in their international play. So, it wasn't just this one time in America that players played in those uniforms. They did look kind of awkward. I definitely wouldn't have wanted to play in those. But basically, all the complaints about this game centered around the uniforms, and it didn't center around the other stuff that was changed about the game. I didn't see any complaints about the lower rim or the shorter court in the coverage. I really think that if it wasn't for those uniforms, this league might have actually lasted a couple of months, but now we will never know. So you may be wondering, why did I highlight this league that only lasted one game? Well, I wanted to talk about it because we hear all the time that the WNBA should lower the rims, and I just wanted to point out that has been tried in the past and it didn't work. Though it was less about the rims and more about the other issues, mainly the uniforms, that made this league not work. So maybe a league will come up in the future that will allow for a shorter rim. Founder of that league thought that that would be a good gimmick to make the game more interesting, entertaining, and I'm all for that. I really am. I think it was just the leotard type uniforms that just ruined it. But and so now, but what do y'all think? Have y'all ever heard of the Liberty Basketball Association? And also, what do y'all think about those darn uniforms? And if there was a league that came out with a 9'2" rim now for women, would you watch? Would that make the game more interesting to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.